They said she was a curse dressed in beauty. They said giving her to a human was mercy. But when the ship's doors opened and the alien widow stepped onto Earth's soil, every whisper died, because no one had ever seen grief look so alive. The elf woman's name was Serenia Vale, last daughter of the emerald moons of Arendar. Once her people's laughter had woven through silver forests. Now her world existed only in fragments, ashes carried in memory. The war had ended, but not for her. Her husband was gone, her kind scattered across the stars. And today, she was the price of peace. Her wrist still bore the faint lines of restraint when they brought her to him, Commander Elias Trent, the human who had fought against her kind. Serenia's emerald eyes, deep and hollow, studied the man who now held her fate. He stood in silence, tall and weather-worn, wearing a soldier's calm-like armor. His gaze met hers, not with hatred, but something she did not expect. Pity? No, it was something quieter. Understanding. "I didn't ask for this," Elias said finally. "Nor did I," she replied. Her voice as soft as snowfall. A silence stretched between them, full of the ghosts of two dying worlds. Behind her, two shadows stirred, her dragons. The smaller one, Kelith, exhaled a low rumble, scales shimmering with iridescent green. The other, larger and older, Varine, watched Elias with molten gold eyes that reflected distrust. "They stay with me," Serenia warned. Elias nodded. "Then we'll find space for three." It wasn't kindness. It was practicality, or so he told himself. The human settlement on Titan's second colony was a fortress of steel and frost. Every step Serenia took through its corridors drew stares. Soldiers paused mid-stride, civilians whispered. "That's her. The alien widow." The air felt thick with judgment, like invisible hands pressing against her throat. Elias led her to a small habitat dome, modest but clean. Artificial sunlight spilled through glass panels, warming a patch of soil where Earth's flowers struggled to grow. She knelt beside them, fingertips brushing petals as if remembering something sacred. "You miss your world," Elias said. "I remember its scent," she whispered. "It smelled like rain and lightning before battle, like sorrow afterward." He didn't answer. He just stood there, caught between curiosity and guilt, because her grief felt too human. Night fell with a strange calm. Kelith curled beside the doorway, his wings folded like velvet cloth. Varine stayed awake, watching the stars through the dome, his low growl blending with the hum of machines. Serenia sat by the viewport, tracing the constellations with her fingers. Somewhere among them, Arendar's ashes drifted. "Do your people still dream?" Elias asked quietly from behind her. She didn't turn. "Not the ones who survived." There was a weight to her words that silenced him. Days turned into weeks. Serenia worked in the colony's research wing, tending to alien flora brought from distant worlds, plants that could purify Titan's harsh air. She never smiled, but sometimes when she spoke to her dragons, her tone softened. Humans watched her warily. Some feared her. Some pitied her. But Elias, he watched differently. Not with suspicion, but with study. He saw how she touched wounded plants as if they were children. How she whispered to her dragons, her voice like music folded into grief. He saw how she avoided mirrors, as if afraid of the woman reflected there, and he began to wonder, what if mercy wasn't her punishment, but his test? One evening, an alarm ripped through the colony. Red lights bled across the walls. "Breached airlock, northern perimeter." Someone shouted through the comms. Elias grabbed his weapon and sprinted down the corridor. Serenia followed, her dragons at her heels. When they reached the outer dome, she froze. A fracture in the glass shimmered like a spider web, light flickering through the cracks. On the other side, movement. Fast, wrong. Scavenger drones, Elias muttered. Automated. Shouldn't be here. But Serenia's eyes widened. Those are not drones. Through the frost, Metallic shapes slithered closer, things built from twisted remnants of Erender's war machines. Fused with scavenged human tech, abominations. Her pulse quickened. They're using our dead machines. The first of them struck the dome with a violent screech. Elias raised his weapon. Get back! But Serenia stepped forward, palms glowing faintly with emerald light, the last fragment of Erender's soulfire. Keleth hissed. Vareen spread his wings, scales igniting like living embers. What are you doing? Elias shouted, something your kind calls. Faith. She pressed her hand against the dome, and it pulsed. The crack sealed. The metal beasts halted mid-crawl, their bodies trembling under an unseen force. For a moment, time itself seemed to hold its breath. Then, the glow faded, and Serenia collapsed. Elias caught her before she hit the ground, her skin cold as glass. Behind them, Vareen roared, a sound that shook the entire habitat. When she opened her eyes again, the world was quiet. She was lying in a medical bay, oxygen monitors blinking softly. Elias sat beside her, blood splattered on his uniform, exhaustion carved into his face. You saved everyone, he said quietly. But that power, it almost killed you. Her gaze drifted toward the viewport, the stars beyond it. It was never meant to exist alone, she whispered. It needs a bond to survive. A bond? He asked. Serenia turned her head, meeting his eyes for the first time, really seeing him. Human hearts. They endure even when everything else burns. Elias blinked, caught off guard by the weight in her voice. But before he could reply, the door burst open. A technician, breathless. Commander, you need to see this, one of the machines. It spoke. Elias stood. Spoke? The man nodded, trembling. It said her name. The sound of her name spoken by something that shouldn't even breathe hung in the air like a haunting. Serenia sat up slowly, the medical bay's soft hum grounding her, though her heart refused to calm. Elias's eyes were on her, steady but uncertain. The technician's words still echoed. It said her name. They found the machine in the outer hangar, sealed behind containment glass. It had once been a drone human design, by the look of its alloy frame, but something inside it pulsed faintly with green light. Her kind's light. Serenia stopped before the glass. Keleth and Vareen flanked her protectively, their wings twitching at the scent of burned metal. Elias stood beside her, hand hovering near his weapon. You're sure it's from your world? She nodded. The core crystal is Erenderite. We used it to bind thought into form. But no one should be able to awaken it now. The machine's single optical lens turned toward her. A flicker of static buzzed through the speakers. Then, a broken voice. SEREN, ya. Her breath caught. It wasn't just a voice. It was his voice. Elian, she whispered. My husband. Elias froze. That thing knows your husband's name? Her lips trembled. It doesn't just know it. It is him, what's left of him. The machine jerked violently, lights flashing in erratic bursts. Keleth growled. Varen's wings flared open in warning, containment fields destabilizing. A guard shouted. Serenia stepped closer. Stop, don't shoot. Elias caught her arm. If it's dangerous, it's him, she said, meeting his gaze with fierce desperation. Please. Elias hesitated, then lowered his weapon. 1 minute. That's all. She stepped up to the glass, voice trembling. Elian. If you can hear me, it's Serenia. I'm here. The machine stuttered, metal scraping against metal as it lifted its head. For a moment, the light in its chest steadied. Serenia. The fire. They took it. I am ... fragments. Tears welled in her eyes. Who took it, Elian? Who did this to you? Humans, it rasped. They said. We would live through them. Mercy ... They called it mercy. Every word was pain wrapped in static. The green light dimmed, then pulsed again weakly, as though fighting to exist. Elias clenched his jaw. Serenia. He's not wrong. There were projects after the war. I thought they were dismantled. She turned on him. You used our dead? His voice broke under guilt. Not me, not my unit. But someone higher up, someone who wanted to learn from you. Her grief hardened into quiet fury. Learning isn't worth desecration. Before either could speak again, the machine convulsed. Sparks erupted, shattering the containment glass. Keleth lunged forward with a roar, wings flaring wide. Elias pulled Serenia back as the machine collapsed, smoke curling from its fractured chest, and through the dying static came one last whisper. They are coming. For her. Hours later, the hangar lay in silence. Engineers swept debris into containment bins while medics checked for radiation. Elias stood beside Serenia, who knelt beside the inert shell of what once carried her husband's voice. He warned us, she said softly. Someone's coming. Elias rubbed his temples. If they built these things using Arender tech, they could be anywhere in the system. And if they want you, they won't stop, she finished. He studied her face. Then we get ahead of them. By the next cycle, the colony had gone on alert. Drones patrolled the perimeter. Scanners swept every incoming vessel. But tension spread faster than security. Whispers filled the mess halls. The alien widow brought this on us. Serenia felt their stares wherever she went. Even in the research dome, human workers avoided her now. Only the dragons stayed close. Keleth, restless, prowled the edges of her workbench. Vareen kept watch through the dome's window, wings twitching each time a ship passed overhead. Elias found her there that evening. You're not safe here anymore, he said quietly. I never was. He stepped closer, voice gentler. There's a transport leaving for Mars Station tomorrow. I can get you on it. She shook her head. Running won't change what they made of us. They'll follow wherever I go. He sighed. Then what do you want to do? Serenia turned toward the stars beyond the dome, their cold light reflected in her eyes. And what my world began. That night, the first attack came. The colony's outer gates erupted in flame. Shadows moved in the smoke, humanoid shapes of metal and memory, Arenderite cores glowing faintly beneath their chests. Elias barked orders through the comms. Defense grid online. Evacuate Sector 9. Serenia and her dragons were already there, standing against the breach. Keleth's fire lit the smoke like dawn. Vareen swept the battlefield with his wings, his roar echoing through the dome. She felt the soulfire awaken again, faintly under her skin. The same power that nearly killed her. She could feel it calling through the metal, through the screens toward the invaders. They moved like a hive, their voices a chorus of fractured code. Return the widow. Return the flame ... Elias joined her on the field, rifle blazing. What do they want from you? Serenia's eyes burned with green light. Not me. What's inside me? She raised her hands, palms glowing with that ethereal fire. The ground trembled. Energy rippled outward, slicing through the swarm. But the power didn't stop it, pulsed wildly, hungrier, spreading beyond her control. Elias grabbed her arm. Serenia, stop. Her voice broke. I can't. Keleth shrieked. Vareen threw himself between her and the machines, his wings absorbing the blast. Sparks flew as metal and magic collided, the sky splitting open in green and gold then dashed darkness. When Serenia awoke, everything was silent except the slow crackle of dying fire. Elias knelt beside her, his face streaked with ash. Vareen lay motionless a few meters away. Keleth whimpered softly beside him. She crawled forward, tears blurring her vision. Vareen, Please. The great dragon's chest barely moved. His golden eyes flickered once, then stilled. Serenya's scream shattered the silence. Elias caught her as she fell, trembling in his arms. And for the first time, the human who once fought her kind held her not as a prisoner, but as someone breaking beside him, outside. The stars flickered in patterns neither of them could name, like a warning or a countdown. And somewhere in the wreckage, one of the fallen machines stirred again. Its core glowed faintly green and whispered, "She has awakened the heart." Varen's body lay beneath the shattered dome, the air thick with the smell of burnt ozone and sorrow. The sky above Titan was a dull silver, streaked with the fading glow of battle. Keleth whimpered, curling protectively beside his fallen kin. Serenia knelt in silence. Her hands trembled as she pressed them to the dragon's scales. They were still warm, still carrying traces of the soulfire she had unleashed. "I didn't mean to," she whispered. "I just wanted to save them." Elias stood a few steps away, his rifle hanging loosely at his side. He wanted to speak, but no words fit inside this kind of grief. He had seen soldiers die, seen cities burn, but this was different. Varen hadn't just fallen in battle. He had chosen to protect her. And now, something vast had awakened in her wake. The ground shuddered. A pulse rolled through the air, slow, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. Keleth's eyes lifted. His nostrils flared. "It's coming," Serenia murmured. A column of light speared the horizon, bright enough to turn Titan's haze into dawn. From its core emerged a shape tall, elegant, inhumanly graceful. The light coalesced into armor that shimmered like liquid glass. Serenia's breath caught. "That's an Arender Guardian." Elias frowned. "Another one of your people?" She shook her head slowly. "No, worse. The Guardians were never people. They were the will of our High Council, built to enforce purity, to preserve what they called the Flame's truth, if one survived." The Guardian's voice boomed, calm and terrible. "Serenia Vale, you have desecrated the sacred flame by binding it to alien flesh." Elias stepped in front of her. "She's done nothing wrong." The Guardian's helm turned toward him, expressionless. "You speak as if you are equal human. Yet your kind's hands defiled our dead." Serenia's grief hardened into fury. "Then destroy me. But leave them." "Your end is mercy," the Guardian said, raising its hand. A blinding surge of energy shot toward them. Keleth roared and shielded her, his scales flaring with emerald light. Elias fired his rifle, shots sparking harmlessly off the Guardian's armor. The blast struck Keleth's side, hurling him against the dome's broken wall. "Keleth!" Serenia cried. The dragon staggered, one wing crushed. His gaze locked on hers, fierce and pleading. "Run!" His thoughts brushed her mind. "Save what remains." But Serenia didn't run. She stood. Her palms glowed again, the soulfire rising not as a weapon, but as something purer. The Guardian hesitated, recognizing the resonance. "You cannot wield the heart," it said. "It consumes all." "Then let it consume me," she answered. "But it will know compassion first." The light exploded outward, flooding the ruins in waves of green and gold. Elias shielded his face as the ground fractured beneath them. The Guardian staggered, cracks spreading across its armor, light spilling through like blood. "Impossible." It rasped. "Not impossible," Serenia whispered. "Human." The last word carried weight. The soulfire's light shifted from alien coldness to something warmer, something human-born. It wove itself with her heartbeat, her grief, her love for a creature that had died to protect her. And in that moment, the heart chose not purity, but connection. The Guardian fell to its knees, dissolving into light. When the brilliance faded, the battlefield was silent. The soulfire's glow now pulsed faintly beneath Serenia's skin. Keleth, wounded but alive, lowered his head beside her. Elias approached carefully. You stopped it. She turned to him, exhausted but calm. No, we stopped it. The heart heard you too. He frowned. Me? You fought not to win, but to protect. You mourned what you didn't understand. That is the bond it sought. Elias looked at her for a long time. So what happens now? Serenia glanced at the ruined horizon. The heart must rest. It cannot stay bound to me, or it will burn this world. She reached out, taking his hand gently. Help me release it. They walked together to the edge of the crater, where Varen's body still lay beneath the stars. The dragon's scales shimmered faintly as if the soulfire lingered within. Serenia placed her hand over his heart. Elias laid his hand over hers. The warmth of human skin met the pulse of alien flame. And for a moment, the boundary between their worlds disappeared. The heart of Arender flowed outward, rising like mist green and gold entwined, lifting into the sky. It streaked upward, beyond Titan's thin clouds, until it became another star. Keleth bowed his head, a low rumble in his chest. He's free. Serenia smiled faintly through tears. So are we. Days later, Titan's colony rebuilt. The humans no longer whispered when Serenia passed. Some nodded in quiet gratitude. The news networks called her the Widow of Fire, the alien who saved them. Elias found her standing at the dome one evening, watching the stars. The scar where the Guardian fell still glowed faintly outside the walls. He approached quietly. You could have left. The shuttle's waiting. She shook her head. Arender is gone. But humanity still dreams. I'd rather stay where hope still exists. Elias smiled faintly. You'd like Earth. Then perhaps, she said, turning to him with a softness he hadn't seen before, you'll show me what your world smells like before battle and after. He laughed quietly. It smells like rain. Like sorrow afterward. Her eyes glimmered. Then we are not so different. And for the first time since her world died, Serenia Vale smiled not as a widow, but as someone who had finally found belonging beyond blood and stars. Subscribe for more epic sci-fi stories. Let the stars guide your next adventure. *.